just start by welcoming everybody. This is the third session of 4 in our certificate program. We're getting really great responses from people, so I'm real excited about that. For all of our new members, this is a free event, and this happens, our elite partners, our premier partners, and our diamond partners, Franciscan Health, Ivy Tech, Horizon Bank, and Sage Popovich, really committed to NEWA throughout the entire year. And that has allowed us to be able to pivot and work on things like this, and Barbara's been is so kind as well. So I want to thank them, make certain I thank them. I'm going to turn it over to you, Barb, and you're ready to go.
Thank you, Andrea. I also want to put up this other screen for you guys because I know that this team is a big part of you guys being able to have this event. So thank you to the Education and Networking Events Committee. I'm BarbaraCarr with Fuse Empire, and today we are teaching on virtual meetings. The good news is you are all already on a virtual meeting, so I don't need to teach you how to get on one, but I'm going to teach you how to make the most of your virtual meetings so that they could be the most impactful for you and the other people who are on those meetings with you. Let's go ahead and jump in and get started. Let's first talk about how virtual meetings are different than in-person meetings. As some of you may have noticed, since you've been forced to do virtual meetings the past several months, you've probably noticed that it's less of a personal feeling. You may feel like you can't get as close to the other attendees, both, geographically, but also emotionally. Sometimes it's really hard to connect with someone through a screen. But it's not impossible. I mean, we all do it with our favorite TV characters. We get really invested in their lives, and when something bad happens to them, we feel like they were someone who we really knew personally. So it is possible to build relationships through a screen, but it takes intention. And so one of the things that I've learned I struggle with in virtual meetings rather than in-person meetings is I like to really be eye to eye with someone. And on virtual meetings, sometimes you don't know where to look. Like, you don't know how to make it look like you're eye to eye. And in fact, in order to do so, it's usually uncomfortable because the person that you're talking to is on your screen, which is usually below your camera. So if you're looking at the person on your screen, you're usually on camera looking down. So for instance, I don't know if you guys can see me. I can't see you because I'm sharing my screen. But if you could see me, this is me looking directly in the camera, which would mean I can't actually see what's on my screen very well. But if I were to look at what's on my screen, like my notes or a person, this is where my eyes are looking. So what's important about that is that sometimes you've got to be uncomfortable and look directly at the camera, even though you're not really looking at the person talking. And so what I've learned to do is that if I'm talking, I'm looking directly at the camera, right? Which feels really weird because it looks like it feels like I'm talking to, nobody. But when the other person's talking, I try to look at them while they're talking. But I also try to lean back a little bit in my seat because it gives me more of a range to where you can't tell as much that I'm not looking directly at the camera. So it's not as personable virtually as in person, but we can make intentions to make it more personable and be able to connect in new ways, right? Let's embrace the change of virtual meetings. All right, so let's go on to some virtual meeting etiquette. You guys may have already thought of some of these things on your own, probably because you saw somebody else doing something that was a no-no, and you were like, oh my goodness, can this person just stop this or change this? And I don't think you were doing it to be judgmental. I think as human beings, sometimes our limits are met, right? Like if we're on a Zoom meeting and somebody isn't muted and there's a siren going off outside their house, right? A fire truck going by, it's very distracting for everybody on the call. it wasn't that person's fault that the siren happened, but you still sometimes get annoyed with that person that they didn't mute themselves. So let's go into some ways that you can have good etiquette so that people don't feel annoyed by what you might be doing. And I also want to add a little disclaimer, because I'm a people pleaser and I just cannot stand the thought of somebody not liking me. If you're already doing these things, this is not me attacking you. This is me helping you to, hey, and I've done these things. In fact, in this video, I'm going to show you some awful things that I've done on Zoom that I've had to learn from. So take this as a learning lesson if you're doing some of these things that are no-nos, okay? So moving on. And I see there's some stuff happening in the chat. I can't see the chat. Andrea, if there's anything super important, let me know. Otherwise, if it can wait until the question time, that's good too.
You got it.
Thank you. So the first thing is that when you are on a virtual meeting, you need to be fully present. I know that it's easy to multitask when you're on a Zoom meeting. I'm guilty of it, guys. I've done it myself. I've learned from that. I try really hard not to multitask anymore on virtual meetings, because you're distracted, you're not getting the full experience, but other people can see that you're distracted as well, especially if your camera is on. People can tell that you're multitasking, and it's very rude. And so, again, I've done this. I'm not proud of it. I do really hard not to do it anymore. I'd be lying if I said that it never happens, but you do need to be fully present when you're on a Zoom meeting. It's a little more lax if you are in a group setting, but I still don't recommend multitasking even in a group setting. When you're one-on-one, that person can definitely tell if you are multitasking. So please don't multitask when you're one-on-one. The next thing is your camera should always be on, unless there's some kind of dire emergency of, like, I don't know, something exploded in your house right before you got on the call and you've got smoothie all over you. I say that jokingly, but that really happened to me 2 weeks ago, I think it was. My smoothie exploded all over my kitchen and all over me, and I did need to go on a Zoom meeting shortly after that. I actually cleaned up as much as I could on the top half of my body, did my Zoom meeting, and then went and showered afterwards because I didn't have time to shower before. One of those learning lessons. But I had to have my camera on at that time because I was one of the speakers. If I wasn't a speaker, I probably would have turned my camera off and not had worried so much about getting as cleaned up as quickly, or maybe I would have turned my camera off and took a shower and then came back and listened to what was going on at the time. I don't know. But your camera should always be on as often as possible, because it lets people know that you are there, you are engaged, you are present. And so it's a sign of, in my opinion, it's a sign of respect to have your camera on, but it's also a sign that you care, that you do care about what's being discussed or gone over during this meeting. Your mic should be on when appropriate. So for instance, if this is like in fact, I have a mastermind group that I run. I ask, when we do the virtual meetings, I ask them to all leave their cameras and mics on at all times, unless something loud happens in their house, like a siren going off outside, or a kid screaming, or a dog barking. Sure, mute yourself temporarily for those times, but we're in discussion here. So everybody should be ready to contribute to the conversation at any given time. And if your mic's not on, you're really not ready to contribute. Okay, so when it's appropriate, your mic should be on, and as often as possible, your camera should be on. Now, I put here a 2-minute task, but we're not going to technically take a break for this. I just want everybody to turn their camera on if it's not on yet. And I get it. Some of you are probably like, oh, I did not know I was going to be on camera. No way. All right. If you don't feel comfortable with it today, I can't force you. But I hope that in the future you'll have your camera on. And in fact, if you do turn your camera on today, there's a part of the meeting later that I will actually be able to help you to do something with your camera on, but I'm only able to help you if your camera's on. So I recommend you throw your camera on if it's not already. And I love how last week Sherry and Andrea gave they talked about giving a reward to the people who had left their camera on, because there were only so few of you guys. There were 50 people or so on the call. I don't know how many of you actually had your camera on the whole time. I'd be interested to know if you guys have the number to share that with me. But I thought that was cool to give a reward for that. So let's talk about when your mic should be muted. If somebody else is speaking, like there's a guest speaker, like today, for instance, you should mute your own mic. A lot of times I mute people as a whole, as the host, and lots of times hosts do that as well. But you make the job easier for the host if you just mute your own mic if there's a speaker and you're not speaking. It's okay to have your mic unmuted when you first get on the call, because you should be networking and saying hi to people and welcoming people. But once the meeting gets started, go ahead and mute yourself, especially if the host doesn't mute everybody automatically, because that just makes sure that if you cough, it doesn't take away from the speaker. Because the way that Zoom is set up is that if most of the time, if it's a speaker view, which when I do my recordings, it is speaker view, which means whoever's speaking, the camera is on. But what happens is if you cough while I'm speaking, it will cut to your picture and not mine. Even if you don't even have a video on, even if it's just your mic on and not your video. So I'm talking and it shows your name on the screen. Right? And so that is weird for people who are viewing it, especially later as a recording. So make sure that if you're not the one speaking, mute your mic. And if there's background noise, right? Like if maybe you're not muted because you asked a question, you unmuted yourself and you asked a question, and then one of your dogs starts barking. Mute yourself. It's okay to still listen to that question while you're muted, or they answered the question while you're muted. But if you notice that there's something loud happening, mute yourself. I have to do that sometimes when, like, I've got a bunch of kids, right? So if one of them comes up and starts, you know, slamming things around in the kitchen, trying to find something to eat, I sometimes will just give whoever I'm talking to an assignment so that I can mute myself while the kids are throwing things around, you know, like the 2-minute tasks that we do. Sometimes I just throw those in just so that my kids can do their thing without you guys hearing them in the background. So know when to mute yourself, and remember to unmute yourself when you're going to talk. So if you have a question, make sure that you click the button to allow yourself to be heard. All right, next is what to wear. I have some pictures I'm going to show about a lot of these things here in a little bit, but I first want to discuss it. What you should wear on Zoom is dependent on what you want the people that are there to think of you. If you're on a professional meeting and you want them to see you as a professional, then you should dress professional, because remember, your camera should be on. So the whole being in your pajamas thing isn't going to work if your camera's on. You can still have pajamas on from the bottom down. You definitely can do that. Just make sure you turn your video off if you stand up. Otherwise, it might be weird. But you want to dress how you want to be perceived. If you're just meeting with family and friends, in fact, my husband's family does like game night on Zoom, and it's a lot of fun, but we just sit on our couch and wear casual clothes. It's very different than when I'm doing a speaking presentation on Zoom. So wear what you want to be perceived as. Be mindful of colors and patterns. One of the things that's important with this, and I'm going to show some pictures of this here soon, is if you have a white background, you should not be wearing a white shirt. Okay, it clashes with your background, and depending on your lighting, can almost look like you don't have a body, right? You're like a floating head. And same thing with patterns. Some patterns don't look good on video. So it might look great on your background, but once people watch it on the video, it could be messing with their eyes, like certain types of flashiness, and certain things are really hard on the eye when you watch them on video. So you'll have to do some trial and error with some of this stuff as you go through it. Same thing with your skin tone. Pay attention to what colors look good on your skin tone, right? We all have a color that you've heard somebody say, oh, that color looks great on you. Take note of that, you guys. If somebody says that a color looks great on you, use that color to your advantage. Sometimes the lighting, for instance, can make your skin tone washed out, or even darker than normal. And then depending on what you're wearing, that can look weird too. So make sure that you're paying attention to all of these things. Be mindful of the way that your shirt is cut and how much of it you can see. Now, again, I can't see myself right now. Oh, I actually just pulled up so I could see me and you guys. Okay, so for instance, do you see on my shirt, like it comes down into a V, which isn't the end of the world, but if I had a shirt that you can see more of it up here, doesn't that look better? Right? So where you can see my shirt rather than it coming down and you're like, whoa, where's that shirt going? Is there more to that shirt? So pay attention to how much you can see. I've actually, in one of my videos, I was so embarrassed, I didn't notice it until later. The shirt that I was wearing, it almost looked like I wasn't wearing a shirt at all. Like it looked like I was in a bath towel. It was so embarrassing. But again, we learn from these mistakes that we might have done in the past. So be mindful of that, what you can see in the video with your shirt. All right, so let's move on to the next section. It's almost time for questions. So if you have questions, be thinking of them. The other thing is jewelry. So with jewelry, as you can see, I'm not wearing jewelry right now, but if I were to put on a piece of jewelry, right? And this particular piece is super long. So when I do this, do you see how just like my shirt, it's not even in the picture. So is that valuable to me or not? What I might do is, even though it's long, I might just pull it to come up more. And then now I have jewelry that is there. One thing to keep in mind with jewelry is try not to wear jewelry that is distracting. If it is too big or too bright or too flashy, or if it moves a lot when you talk, like if it's doing this back and forth stuff every time you talk or move, that's distracting. So you want to make sure that with jewelry, you are wearing things that both cater to appeal to your outfit, but also are not distracting to your message and what you're trying to share. Okay, and then the next part is what's in your background. So we're going to go over this in depth with each of you guys here really soon. But do you have distractions back there? Are there kids or animals walking past or in front of you? My cat one time walked right in front of me in the camera, and it was one of those things that I didn't even see her coming. She was so fast, she came before I could stop her. I've had kids walk past me in the background, and so you want to do your best to try to keep that from happening when possible, because it's a distraction. Now, depending on who I'm talking to, my kids know that they can come and say hi. So like some of you, I may have been on a call with you and my 9-year-old will come and sit on my lap and hug me and just wave at whoever's in the camera, right? Because she knows that, like, and she'll ask me beforehand, she'll say, hey, like she'll be like, can I come over there? Because she wants to hug me, right? She wants to see her mommy. And so sometimes I'm like, no, like I'm like, and you know, off to the side, I'm doing this with my hand, like, no, stay over there. And other times, if it's okay, I give her like a thumbs up, but it's off the camera, right? So like, so if I'm doing that, like right now, I'm doing a thumbs up and now I'm shaking my hand. No, you guys can't see that, but she can, right? And so being able to have a language with the people in your house so they know when it's okay to be a distraction and when it's not, right? And then traffic, you guys, this is a funny one because I actually had somebody who, at one point, this one wasn't me. I try to use all my examples, but I don't have an example for this, but I do have an example of someone else that she was sitting where the window was behind her and there was actually traffic, cars driving back and forth. It was a busy road. It was so distracting, like so distracting. So make sure that you're paying attention to that because people are paying attention to what's in your background. If there's a lot of different things, like if you're in your office or in your dining room and there's a lot of stuff back there, pictures and posters and stuff like that, people can't help it. They want to know what's on that. They'll strain their eyes trying to read what's on your picture in the background, right? Or which book you have on your bookshelf back there. I know it sounds crazy, but we all do it, whether we realize it or not. So try to give as little distractions as possible in your background. And then the other thing I want to touch on here is, what's your name? So right now, you see my name shows up as Fuse Empire as I'm speaking. That's actually because I had already changed it to BarbaraCarr, and then I lost internet connection. And so I changed to my hotspot because all of my children are home e-learning. So I figured maybe the system's just using too much. So I changed to the hotspot on my phone, logged back on, and forgot to change my name again. So there's another good example of what not to do. So you should always change your name if needed when you get onto Zoom. If it shows iPhone, or if it shows like your name all run together without any spaces or capitals, that doesn't look professional. If it shows just your phone number because you've called in, like, get on there and rename yourself. Put your first and last name. Make sure you're capitalizing each letter of the first letter of your first name, first letter of your last name. Make it look professional, because your name shows up when you're talking. Even if your video's on, your name shows up in the corner, and it shows up when things are recorded. So for instance, when I'm recording this video, if you talk, your name will show up in it. So make sure your name shows up as who you are, and not just so it looks professional, but in case someone wants to reach out to you. You may get new business because you're on somebody's recorded video asking a question. So make sure your name is what you want it to be. And then a couple of quick tips on how you can look your best. So I am somebody who does not wear makeup very often anyway. Sometimes I do, but for the most part I don't. And so occasionally I'll notice that my face is looking dry, or I'll look dehydrated. And what are some very quick tips that you can do in a matter of minutes to look great without putting makeup on? I'm here to give you that information. And the first thing is lotion on the face. So I like to put lotion on my face. It gives me a more youthful look right before I go on camera. It gives me a more vibrant look, makes me look more awake even if I'm not. Chapstick is very good, both for, you know, making your lips look better and also helping to be dry, having dry lips. I'm not wearing any right now, but I should have been. And even lip gloss, chapstick or lip gloss, whichever one. And then another thing that I really like to do, if I only put one thing on makeup wise, it is what is the stuff on your eyelashes? Crap, I don't even know. See, I don't even know what makeup's called. The stuff you put on your
Mascara.
Mascara, thank you. So I put mascara on because I already have really long and thick eyelashes, but when I put the mascara on, it makes my eyes pop. And again, I'm not wearing any today. I should have did like a little session where I like put it on for you girls, but that would have been difficult for me because it takes me longer than the average person because I don't do it regularly. But those are some very quick tips that can make you look really good, really fast. Okay, so those of you who I ask to put your camera on and you're like, no, I look awful, I encourage you to throw on some mascara and some lip gloss or some chapstick, put some lotion on your face, and then jump on camera. And I wish I could see you guys' faces right now. With you guys are like, Barbara, I don't like you, but that's okay. All right, quick 2-minute task. Change your name if needed. And if you need help with it, I'll walk you through that in just a moment. And if you still haven't turned your camera on yet and you would like to, now's a good time to do that. So when you are, in order to turn your, to change your name, for those of you who don't know how, if you click on the participants down at the very bottom of your screen, and then when you find your name, there's a spot that has like an arrow. I think it says more, and then there's an arrow. If you click on it, and then you could click rename and give yourself a new name. Now, as the host of the meeting or the co-host, you can technically rename people too. I sometimes do that for people if I'm doing a one-on-one with them and it's a recorded video. Sometimes I'll just change their name for them, especially if they jump on late and I don't have time to tell them how to do it. So just keep that in mind, that if you are running the meeting, you can technically change people's names for them. All right. So So here I would like to take any questions, comments, or concerns that anybody might have. If you have something, go ahead and unmute yourself. And Andrea, I cannot see the chat, so if you are able to let me know if there's any questions there.
So Amy is asking, is it rude to drink during a Zoom meeting? Amy, are you talking beer, wine, or are you talking water? Because that's Amy Hemmingfield. I guess I have to,
Yeah.
oh, all of the above. She's all of the above. No, she's asking, is it rude to drink coffee during a Zoom meeting?
Okay, great question. Thank you, Amy. All right, so most of the time, no, especially if you're drinking water. You've got to hydrate, right? Many people like to drink coffee. I'm drinking tea right now. I have a sore throat, so I really need to be drinking tea. I do find myself drinking coffee often during Zoom meetings too, but I try to use like a fun glass too, you know, that makes people, you know, it looks nice. And but alcohol, I would say if you are drinking alcohol when you're on a Zoom meeting, try to be discreet about it, unless it's like a happy hour Zoom meeting where like the purpose of it is to have a cocktail while you're networking, right? So if you're in a meeting and you are having a glass of wine or something, yeah, I guess it depends on who the audience is. Like I'm a big wine lover, but I haven't drank any alcohol in over a year because my husband and I decided to take 5 years off of drinking alcohol for a lot of reasons. That's a whole nother story. But I love my wine glasses. So I drink everything in wine glasses now, even though it's not wine. I drink my water in a wine glass, my orange juice in a wine glass, like a lot of things I drink in wine glasses. And so sometimes I will be drinking out of a wine glass on a Zoom meeting. Many times you could tell that it's not wine, but sometimes if I'm like worried about what the person thinks, I'll say, just so you know, this is just water. Like I just do it to be classy, right? Drinking on my wine glass to be classy or whatever. But so if you are worried about it, depending on who the audience is, use that at your own discretion. But I would say overall, no, it is not rude to have a drink with you while you're on a Zoom meeting.
So everyone is seconding Renee that they think that we should be drinking during our next meeting. Hey, Karen Crawford Moore asked a question. What if your name is long and it gets truncated? Is it okay, or should you come up with a shortened version of your name?
It depends how long it is. So Karen, I know your name is long, but I do think it will fit on there. It won't show up, the whole thing won't show up easily when your video's off, but when your video's on, it usually will show up, especially if you're the one speaking on the screen. Because I actually have an example I'm going to show you guys here in a moment where I had a super long name because I put my website in there. And so I want to show you guys what that looks like as well in a moment when we jump into the pictures that I have for you.
I've got one last question here.
Yep.
What are your thoughts about using Zoom backgrounds?
Great question. So if you're using the virtual background that Zoom offers, make sure it's one that doesn't cut your body or face up, like chop it up every once in a while. The best thing to do if you're going to use a Zoom virtual background is to make sure you have a plain wall like mine behind me, a solid color wall, no pictures, stuff like that, because otherwise sometimes the system gets confused and then like part of your face will be missing, right? Like that's really creepy. And so I had one person who was using the virtual background and all I could see were their eyes. And I was like, whoa, that's wicked. So if it allows you to still be fully visible with your whole part of you that's shown, then yes, use that. You can even use your own logo back there. Or you could customize your own backgrounds. And so I do think that there is a time and place for them, but only if they're working properly. All right.
Okay, it's all on to you now.
All right. So next part, we're going to go to how to create the best looking setting for your virtual meetings. And this is where I'm going to show you some examples of where I did things really, really, really bad and how I learned from them. So the first thing you want to pay attention to is your lighting. Okay, I have a lot of light sources, and as somebody who's in the media industry, I know the way to place lights in different ways for videoing and stuff like that. And so you would have thought that I'd have been able to take that skill and bring it onto virtual meetings, but for some reason I didn't do so well with that. I do now, but before I did not. So with your lighting, I'm going to actually pull up. So I have an overhead light to the right of me, not directly above me, it's to the right of me. And I like to have super bright lights, just like in general, because when I'm working, I like this place to be lit up like the 4th of July, right? Like, it's like, I like my space bright. And I usually have all the curtains in my house open almost at all times. So I've got a big window over on this side. That's my living room window. It's a big, huge living room window. And then over here, I'm in my dining room right now. So over here is just a regular window. On the right side, I've closed the curtains. Okay, so my curtains are closed. On my left side, my curtains are wide open. The sun is shining in that side right now. And then here, I only have 3 out of the 5 lights lit right now. And in fact, I'm going to just stand up and show you guys a few. So if I turn this on, I just relit those 2 bulbs. Look at how much brighter it puts on me. And so you've got to find a nice balance, because if you're too bright, you're going to get washed out, or it's going to show all of your flaws. Okay, like you can see your skin a lot clearer when it's bright. So if you're having the moment of, oh, I didn't put lotion on today or makeup or whatever, just tone your light down just a little bit. Not so much that you get dark, but enough that it's not fully shined on you. Now I want to open my curtain here too. Give me 1 second. So now if I open my curtain, do you see what it did to the right side of my face here now? It made me bright over here and dark over here. That doesn't look great. So I'm going to close the curtain real fast again, because I do not want that. And I'm okay leaving those other lights on up there for right now. But so making sure that you know where your light sources are. It's always good for your main light source to be in front of you somewhere. So like I said, mine's in front of me, but to the right above me. So you want it to be in front of you, because what it does is it puts light on your face, which is what you want people to see. If you have a light behind you, it many times will wash out your face. It will make you look like you're like in a dark room. And sometimes too, like if you have a light above you that's behind you, sometimes it does the same thing. If you are sitting by a window, typically the best way to do it is facing the window, but there are some ways that you can do it with the window behind you, as long as you have another light in front of you that is the primary source of light. Okay, so pay very close attention to that. Now I want to show you some examples of mine. This one up in the top left, this was when I first started doing Zoom videos way back in March. See how blown out my face is? That was when I had all the windows open, all the lights on. Like, it was just so bad. I looked like a ghost. And then when you move over to the top right here, that's when I started, I think I was closing one curtain. I was sitting 1 seat over from where I am now. It got a little better, but it still was awful, right? Like, these are videos that are actually on my YouTube channel. And then when we come down to the bottom left here, then it got too dark. In my white shirt doesn't look so great with my gray background. And then over on the right, it's a little better, but because I was so close to the camera, my face was really, like my nose specifically was really bright. And then see how I've got jewelry on some of these, and it goes with what I'm wearing. Some of them I don't have jewelry on, and that's okay. There was a different group setting that I was in. But see how the lighting can play a big part in how you look. I don't look, even on this one where it's darker, I look way more professional, and not just because what I'm wearing than in these other ones, but because of the lighting, right? Even this one, when I'm not wearing something super nice, I still look more professional than in these two on the top because of the lighting. If I go to this next screen, this is all the exact same background with me sitting in the exact same seat with just different lighting sources. Okay, so as you can see, lighting makes a big difference on how you look. Karen Crawford Moore, when I talked about your name earlier, here's one example. If you look in the top right picture here, my name, I changed to BarbaraCarr, comma, and then Barbara Talks Business podcast host. That's because this particular video was on my podcast. So I change it to that when I'm doing my podcast. Sometimes I have it as my personal name. Sometimes I have it as Fuse Empire. And then other times, I think on the next screen, yeah, I think it's the next screen. I'll show you another one. And then your background. So knowing what your background looks like is really important. We already talked about not having distractions in there, but what about what it actually looks like? How it's appealing to the people who's seeing it? And so here's some examples. Up here in the top left corner, this is my husband and I doing a video for his business. I do some videos for him, and so it's just a blue sheet. All we did, this is the same room, we put a blue sheet up behind us, and as you can see, my blue clashes with that blue. We did a great video. In fact, that video came out of the blooper video that I created that's on the YouTube channel. I highly recommend you look at that. We had some fun bloopers. But noticing though that even the lighting, like the lighting is okay, but it's not great. And then when you move to the top right corner, this is down at my actual desk in my office, which is in my basement. And if you look really closely, you see behind me all of our extra food and stuff from Costco, right? The mac and cheese, the honey bunches of oats, all this extra, like this is where we put the bulk items that we get from Costco. And then behind my head, there's a workout bar that my husband and my son use, and it looks like I'm like Shrek. What is really interesting about this particular video is that the person who I was interviewing on this video for my podcast actually asked if they could promote it all over, and they were even going to put advertising money into it, which normally I'm okay with, but I'm like, oh, of course, that's the one time that I have such a bad background, and that, like, you see the light spots on the wall and it's dark over here, and my lighting was not good. I was so embarrassed. I let him use it for whatever he wanted because it was going to promote me anyway. But I felt like crap. I should have done better, right? So just be careful. The one time when you don't, have your best background, that might be when someone wants to use it. And then down in the bottom left, and this is when I got a little bit better, and this is my living room that you're looking into with the piano and the one light on there, and then my bookshelf. So I was able to give it more of my personality, right? And so this one on the bottom left is what you see in most of my videos that I was doing in my 30 days of free marketing tips. And a lot of my videos have this background on it. And when I'm on someone else's podcast, I use this background because I feel like it adds to it shows my personality with that. And then over on the bottom right, this one you guys probably remember from last week when I was out of town. And there was not really a good place to be in the house because my husband was on phone calls and the guy who we were staying with was on phone calls. So I went outside and I improvised, right? And so I had to improvise figuring out where is the sun, right? And I had to figure out based on where the sunlight was and what was going to be in my background, how to get the best picture. So you've got to be mindful of these things. And then another question people ask a lot is, should you be centered in the frame or not? So I'm going to pull myself up so I can see me again. So most times, yes, I'm centered in the frame. But there are times when you will see me a little bit off to one side than the other, but there's usually a purpose for that. Like maybe the stuff I want people to see is over here, or maybe there's a whiteboard here that I'm going to use. It's okay to be centered, but I think most times you want to try, it's okay to be off-centered, but most times I think it's best to stay centered when you can, unless you have a purpose for not being centered. Okay, and then, hold on, I went too far. How close or far should you be from the camera? That's a great question. I'm gonna pull myself up so I can see me again. Okay, so generally you want to be far enough that you can see your whole head. And if you're wearing a shirt like mine, you want to be able to see the whole shirt. So I might move back a little bit or pull my shirt up like I did the first time. You want to be able to, you know, you don't want to look like you're not wearing a shirt. And so there are times though in some of my videos where my head is cut off, I'm really close like this. It's not the end of the world. It's better than if I'm like, let's see, as I get closer, it's probably better than being this close. That's probably scary. Some people do that when they're on their cell phones. And you don't want to be so far back that it's like, that you seem like you're like, just like, where are you? I can't reach you, right? Like, it almost feels like you're distant. So there's not really a right or wrong answer. It's going to be based on what you're wearing, what your background is. But generally, you want to make sure that you can see your whole head, and you want to make sure that you can see something on the top here of what you're wearing. Okay, so let me open it up for questions.
So one of the questions is, so what if you don't have the ability to do all of that lighting and move your desk and go outside and, you know, I mean, you're at your desk and it's in a little cubicle. What do you do?
Okay, so if you happen to at least have a plain wall you could sit in front of, that would be the easiest fix. But I guess I'm trying to think of if you're in a cubicle and you've got, well, I'm not sure, like how, like if you're the one who's designing your cubicle, maybe design it in a way that allows for good virtual videos. You could also prop up what's called a green screen. I know it's a lot more work, but you could get a green screen set up for like 20 or 30 bucks on Amazon. And it's just like two little stands and then literally a green screen. It's like a green sheet. And the reason they choose green is because most people don't wear bright green on a normal day. So that bright green behind you, you can actually end up cutting that out if you want, but it won't clash with pretty much anything you wear. You can even put a white sheet up or a black sheet or a blue sheet or whatever. I know that if you're in your office in a cubicle, it may be difficult. I wouldn't stop having Zoom meetings just because you can't get a perfect setup. But I would say that if you are able to make changes, do what you can and don't fret about the rest of it.
A question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Is this too busy? What's your opinion on this?
I'm glad you asked that. Actually, give me 1 second because I'm going to stop sharing my screen, because the next part of this was I wanted to be able to check all of you that, or whoever wanted to be checked. So let's see, what is your name? Renee. All right, Renee, it's okay that I give you feedback, yes?
Yeah, I want it.
All right, so I can't tell what's in the backpack there. I don't know if that's a sheet or a wall. It looks blurry to me.
Okay.
And so it might be depending on the light too, because the light looks like, from what I could tell, looks like it's above you, right? Is that a painted wall?
It's a huge tapestry, like a huge painting.
Okay, so what device are you using? Are you on a computer or a phone or what?
I'm on a laptop.
Okay, so I would make sure, one, that your laptop camera is clean, because the whole picture looks a bit blurry. So you might just need to clean that lens.
It's probably because it's an old computer too. Like my laptop is like 5 years old, and I think I need a new camera.
Okay, that could be it then. And then when you had your glasses on, you had a lot of glass glare. And I'll give you a tip on that. I used to wear glasses as well. One thing you could do to take away glass glare is you can tilt your glasses, the front part, down a bit to where you're, leave it where they are, pull it all the way back. And then like the parts that's on your ear, kind of pull those like, there you go. Yes. So so what she did, you guys, is if you kind of stand the part that goes around your ear, if you stand it on your ear instead of behind your ear, it actually gives a, you're able to, There you go. Yep. So you take away the glass glare and it feels weird on your ears, but it doesn't look weird to the audience. Okay. So that's a tip I know from wearing glasses and also because I'm in the photo business as well. But so yeah, that looks great. And I love your red glasses and your red lipstick. That like stands out like, wow. The light behind you, actually, if you turned that on, it might make your background look less busy. Let's see. Oh no, that's too much. That's too much. Go ahead, turn that off. But I do like that you have a flower there. It's not an awful background. I do think that I think you look good. You look professional, but the blurriness is a bit rough. So if you get a new camera, that would probably fix all of that, right? If you had a new camera or a new computer.
And the painting itself is also very like abstract blurry, so it probably contributes to that too.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. Okay, great.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Would anybody else like me to do a review of your background?
Yes, please. This is Jean Van Keppel.
Hi, Jean. All right, so, okay, there you go. I was gonna say you're too close to the one side, but I like when you backed up a bit. There you go. You're at a better angle. Turn it a little more how you had it just a moment ago. Right there. I like how you've got that plant in the flag back there. And the eagle picture down there, I would have worried that would have been too glary, but it's not, so that's fine. I think that your picture looks great. I don't know what you do for a living, but I can see some personality from your background. I can tell that you are into, you know, those older paintings, the landscaping, that you're very patriotic, right? I can see some of your personality in your background, and that's great. You're welcome. Thank you for sharing your background. Just one thing, Jean, I would say, when you first came on there, you were a little too close to the camera. Now you're too far from the camera. Perfect, right there. Stay right there. All right, who else? You're welcome. Nobody else? Don't be shy. If you don't want to do it publicly.
Okay, Barbara, I'm gonna sign up here because I always obsess about what's going on when I do these Zoom calls.
All right, Karen, thank you. So so here's the first thing is you definitely have a distracting background. There's a door that's open, and I'm like looking in there like there looks like there's a lot of paper in there, right? Like,
and I leave the door open because there's a mirrored wall closet behind there.
Okay, all right. So you may need to try to tilt your camera. Do you have a camera that you're able to turn?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, turn it a little bit to your left. Oh, is that a whole
it does. Oh, yeah, it does turn. It does turn.
Okay, there you go. See, yeah, turn it to where your head blocks that paperwork.
Okay.
Oh, now it got really dark. Okay.
Yeah, that's my other issue is I have a whole, like, one wall is all window in here too.
Okay. What is on this side of your wall to your left? What is over there?
It's a desk, another desk.
Can you turn your camera? Let me see what's over there.
Yeah. And my coffee.
Okay. Okay, Karen, do you have on the right side of you a place that you could put your camera? To your right?
Yeah, I need to clean up over here.
Okay, so if you're able to put your camera on that right side of you to where then you're looking, your back is to that other desk, I think that would be your ideal picture.
Okay. And you don't need to have like a screen per se to use the backgrounds.
Right, you just need to have
have a clean white or light colored wall.
It just needs to be solid. It doesn't matter what color it is.
Oh, okay.
All
Great,
right.
thank you.
You're welcome. All right, who else?
Can I chime in?
Yes.
Please critique me because I'm going to show you guys. That is a bed. That is not a bed.
Okay, Maddie, first thing is, your outfit and your background are very busy. There's lots of patterns, right? Which looks good when you're not on video, right? But on video, sometimes those patterns are very distracting. So if you're going to have a pattern in the background, like your files, don't wear a pattern shirt, right? If you
know, I wondered that. I'm really glad you mentioned that, because I also kind of worried, and I'm going to tell everyone this just because I thought this looked like a robe. It's not. It's a nice, actually really nice shirt, until I looked at myself again and was like, oh.
Yes. So keep in mind that, like, people don't know when you have a, right, like you have a shirt on, and if it looks like a robe even slightly to you, it probably looks like a robe a lot to someone else. And so, and I actually did think it was some kind of robe. I thought maybe you were in like a hypnosis field or something like that, right? And I'm not sure what you do, but let's see. Hold on, I lost your view. If you are not, if you're not the one I'm critiquing, if you can mute yourself, because otherwise you pop up and then I lose the other person. Okay, perfect. So, so Maddie, and then you have some things like the pictures behind you, on the wall behind you, you can see part of them, but not all of them, which is distracting, right? And same thing with the little thing to your left. You've got, looks like a little, maybe note cards or something like that. So what I would recommend you do, turn, like, I know you've got the bed on your right side, so try to turn your camera a little bit to your left, just slightly. Oh, look, yeah, you've got something cute there. Keep it. Yes, okay. And then what I would do is try to, is your camera able to move further away from you just a little bit or no? Let's
try. I have it, so you guys know, because you can totally, I don't mind, critique me. I'm in a kid's room. Because we all know how that goes, but I figured out a way to make it work in a tiny house.
Yes. Perfect, perfect. Now turn your camera a little bit more to the left, just slightly. Right there, right there, right there. Okay, no, a little to the right now. You went a little too far. Right? Okay, nope, nope. I want to see that guy with the green. There you go, the owl. Perfect. So here's what I'm seeing now. I see the owl, which gives a little bit of your personality. I see that picture of you up in the windowsill. I don't know if that's maybe you and a kid, or I can see it's family, right? And then I see more of the pictures that are above you. Before, I could not see the heads of the people in that bottom picture. Now I at least see their heads, so they look like real people, right? That is a much more ideal frame right there.
I like that. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Yeah. Okay, so I know we're running out of time, so I'm going to jump back.
Hey, I've got one more question here. So how do you change your Zoom background if you have a small office or you're in your kid's room that you can change your Zoom background?
Okay, good question. So down at the bottom, where you have your mute button and your stop video or turn your video on, right next to the video, there is a little arrow on the right side of that video camera. If you click the arrow, you will see a spot that says choose virtual background, and then that's where you can choose what you'd like to put there.
Okay, and then how do I make myself look like Heidi Klum in front of all of you? That would be, that's my, yeah, Amy, I see you laughing, Amy.
You invite Heidi Klum to come to your house.
So many people think I look like her, but you know, no.
Okay, so I love you guys. All right, so if you did not get a chance to ask me how your background looked and you would like to have a personal one-on-one with me, this website here, which I'll send to Sherry with the video and stuff, you can actually hire me for a 45-minute session to be able to help you just like I help the people on the screen. And it will be a lot more than what we just did. Like I might actually say, stand up and turn that light off, go grab another light, move to a whole different room. If that's something you want, the price is $99. Nobody's obligated to it, but if it is something you want, that's an option for you. And then in the next 24 hours, I'll get sent over to Sherry the link to this recorded video, the PowerPoint slides, and then that booking site link. And then next week, we are going to be talking about how to make money from speaking. Some of you might already be doing that. Some of you may not even think that you want to do that or can do that. But I really hope you guys show up because it's my favorite session. So we have just a couple minutes left. So with that said, I'll put my contact info up and turn it over to Andrea.
All right, guys, does anyone have any other questions? I learned some good tips here. One that I got to put yes, I'm not on video. Wait a second, I'll do it. We'll have this link up for you, and then you can also see the past meetings as well. I'm looking forward to the last one. This is a certificate program, so if you complete all 4, we do give you a certificate of completion that you can hang on your wall behind you, right here, that you completed it. Okay. Anything else? Remember, if you're interested in the networking thing on September 22nd, we're only taking 50 people, 50 people. So register first, okay? All right. Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Right.